Today I am sharing all new Farmhouse Country Christmas DIYs. Welcome to CreArtive by Nature, DIY and Decor. My name is Donna. So for this project I am using this old pickle jar, and it's actually from my childhood. My dad, he used this to store bulk rice for the family, and as you can see there's his writing on the top of the lid, and I thought this would be great to use as my dad is no longer with us, so I thought it would be really fun just to include this piece as a family heirloom. So I'm cutting out a piece of foam and I used the lid as a template, and I needed this to fit inside the jar. Now, this was a request by Vonda. She wanted a mini Christmas scene in old jars. And I also am incorporating the suggestion of Teresa and Angie. They both wanted to see some farmhouse animals. So I trimmed down the piece of foam to make sure it would fit inside the jar, and then I'm generously applying hot glue and I'm placing it down at the bottom of the jar. I'm creating a bit of a base inside so I can create a scene. Now I'm using some preserved reindeer moss and I'm going to camouflage that piece of foam. You can get this from local dollar stores, craft stores. I even have it linked on my Amazon favorite store, and I have that linked in my description box below. So I'm just going to continue to fill in the edge until you have it covered just like this. And now I am going to be using this red barn. I picked it up from Dollar Tree. Now I'm going to be using this green paint. I'm dry brushing some of this paint to give the effect of frost and snow on the barn. Now I like to collect pieces like this from Dollar Tree or other places such as Michael's, and I'll look for these things seasonally, and then I'll put them aside and use them for Christmas if I feel it's a piece that I can use. So keep that in mind, to keep your eyes open to find pieces like this, because this is a great piece and I knew it would be perfect for a wintry scene. So I'm going to just continue to add the paint for my snowy effect. And then I'm going in and I'm just touching up some of the windows as the paint job wasn't that good. And again, I'm just using my white cream paint. So the paint is all nice and dry on the barn, and now I have this bottle brush tree, and I also have these geese. They are from my stash. I thought they'd be so cute to use as the farm animals, but feel free to use whatever you have. So I'm going to just figure out my placement on the inside of the jar, and then I will be hot gluing them into place. So another fun fact is that my aunt and uncle actually have a red barn on their farm. So again, I thought this would be just so fitting for our family. So here you can see I'm generously using some hot glue. I don't want this to topple over, and you can fill your jar up with whatever you have. Even just doing a big grove of some bottle brush trees would be really fun. Here I decided to move the base off of this one as it was just too bulky on the bottom, and I'm just going to use a touch of hot glue to make sure the tree stays in place. And then again, I am also going to hot glue these geese into place. Some chickens or a little cow or some pigs or something would be just absolutely adorable in a scene like this as well. So now I'm going to continue on with the reindeer moss, and I'm going to fill in the rest of the foam in between the barn and the animals and the tree. So the moss has filled in this piece nicely, and now for something really fun. I am using this faux snow, and I am going to sprinkle it all over the inside to make it look like a really nice, pretty wintry scene. I thought that this looked so fun. I really love how this looks. So So for a fun whimsical touch, I thought I would add some fairy lights. So I've got this battery pack and I want to glue it on the inside of the lid. You just want to make sure you glue this down so you can access the battery pack and change out the batteries if needed. And you also want to make sure that you can access the switch. So I am just wrapping the excess cord around the battery pack. And then I'm using some hot glue to help hold it into place. Now I have done this before and it works really well. I've never had an issue with the wire melting, but do be careful that you don't touch the nozzle on the wire. All right, so now I'm gonna place all those lights inside and then they'll just look like little fireflies dancing around or little stars. And then I'll put the lid on. And then as you can see, it's got my dad's writing on the top, so I am gonna be covering that up. Of course, you can use any fabric you have, but I really like the look of burlap for a Farmhouse Country Christmas. So I had this piece in my stash and I'm just going to cut it down to size. And of course, I'm going to just remove some of the threads to create that frayed look. And then I like to always kind of scrunch up my fabric just to give it that really rough and rugged look. So I'm really liking how this is going to look, and I just wanted to tack it down a little bit. So I'm just adding a little bit of hot glue and then I'm going to press the fabric into place. Now again, to help hold this down and to give it a decorative touch, I'm using some baker's twine. I love to use baker twine for projects like this. I'm just going to wrap it around the top. Feel free to use any color that you have or that you can get your hands on. I'll wrap it around several times and then I'm going to tie a knot. Jute twine would be a really nice addition as well. I like to just tie a knot on the ends of my baker's twine just so it doesn't unravel. So you can leave it just like this if you'd like. I'm just trimming it up a little bit. I felt like it was a little lopsided. But again, you can use any fabric and I like it, I really do. But I felt like it just needs a little bit more just to really bring in that country Christmas feel. So decided to decorate the top. I'm just using a selection of greenery and pine cones and bells. These stems are from my stash, but I believe I got them from Michael's a few years ago. They're just little pieces that I had snipped off a larger branch. And as you can see, it has a little bit of glitter for a frosted look. The pine cones, I actually got these from Dollar Tree. They were off of a garland. I got them, a year or two ago, and they have a really pretty frosted look. So I'm adding some of those, but feel free to collect some from nature and add those as well. These are some beautiful bells that I had in my stash. They've kind of got that primitive red color. I love it. This is an awesome piece. I am really happy with how it turned out. I am so excited to use it at Christmas time, and I would love to know what you think by leaving me a comment down below. So for this project, I'm using this LED lantern light that I picked up from Dollar Tree. They've had these for the last 2 years and they are great to alter. So I'm just going to pop out the bottom. It's really easy to remove. And then I'm going to use a mix of some burnt umber along with a touch of black paint, as I wanted a dark brown. So you're going to need a rag and a paintbrush, and you'll be applying this paint onto the lantern, and you'll remove the excess with the rag. Now, I typically give my plastics a coat of gesso, but I found that these lanterns actually took craft paint fairly well. It was kind of a bit of a porous surface, so I didn't bother to seal it up. and it, like I said, it worked well, but I did seal it at the end once the paint was all dry, and I'll show you what I used here in a bit. So I'm covering the entire surface of the lantern, both inside and out. And I will show you here in a minute that I am actually also painting the base. I wanted to create the look of a wood lantern, and I thought that this brown paint would work really well. So I'm just going to give everything about 2 coats, and I'm going to allow it to dry in between. So this is with 1 application of paint, and I'm going to paint the inside now. I had allowed it to dry first before I held this lantern because I didn't want my fingerprints to be showing. Here I'm going over the surface again with another touch, and you can see how much better the coverage was. All right, so I'm using some Deco Art matte varnish, and I'm going to give the lantern a coat of this varnish, and that will help seal in the paint so it doesn't flake off. This is just a precautionary measure. Feel free to use whatever sealant you like to use for your craft projects. Okay, so the sealant is all nice and dry, and now it's time to decorate. I have this evergreen pipe cleaner. I picked it up from my local dollar store, and I created a little wreath out of it. Now, I did have a viewer confirm that you can actually get the same stuff at Hobby Lobby down in the US. So if you're in search of it, then I would definitely check out your store. So I'm applying this using some hot glue. I wanted to kind of camouflage the candle a little bit, and I thought this did the trick. Now I wanted to just add a bit more texture, so I'm using these flocked leaves. Again, this was just from my stash. It's leftover pieces from I believe it was from Dollar Tree. They had these beautiful spring florals. I also got these pip berries, again from Dollar Tree. A lot of my supplies come from Dollar Tree because it's just an affordable way to craft. And so I tend to use these things over and over again. They're my favorites, but of course, feel free to check out your local craft stores to see what you can find, or check out even places like a thrift store or your local dollar store. I am just making sure that my top of my lantern fits over this little wreath that I made. And now I'm adding the little berries for a beautiful festive touch. Okay, so now I want to decorate the top, but first I'm going to be just tying a little bow on the top, and then I will be adding a hanger at one point, as I thought this would be really cool to use as an ornament, but I needed to decorate this piece first. So I'm just going to tie this beautiful hemp cording that's in a gorgeous green color around the top. I double bowed it. And then you can, of course, use any color that you have in your stash, or use any kind of trim that you have. So once you've got that in place, then you can start to add some greenery. I'm again using these flocked leaves along with some of the evergreen pipe cleaner that I have right here. So I am going to be adding the pip berries to the top as well, but after having a little look here, I realized that I had covered up my bow too much, so I decided just to tie another simple little bow, and I am going to add that to the middle of the little cluster that I have going on right here. I think that looks just so much better. So I'm just, again, using hot glue for all these little steps. And now I'm going to go in and add the little berries. So once you're done decorating your little lantern, you can pop the base back into place, and then it's ready to be hung in a tree if you have an ornament hook on it, or you could even use this on a tiered tray or in any little vignette that you have. I think it is so adorable. And as you can see, I missed a glue string. Gotta remember to remove those glue strings, but I really love how this piece turned out. So I'm going to be using these gorgeous vintage ornaments that I had got from the thrift store, and I thought they would be perfect for Farmhouse Country Christmas decor. Now, this is actually a project that I had done last Christmas, but I wanted to share it with all of you again because it's one of my favorites. I have this carved out wood bowl that my mom had given me, and I'm going to fill it out with some moss. You can have Excelsior as well, and I'm actually going to be using some moss that I had foraged from the forest. Now, I've got a video all about that. I will have that link down below in the iCards above, as well as in a pinned comment. So once you have some moss or whatever filler you are going to be using in place, then you can start to lay out your gorgeous ornaments. As you can see here, I'm just adding little bits of the reindeer moss as well. It just helps to cushion and hold all those beautiful ornaments into place. Now, another option you could do is fill this up with some florals, or some pine cones would be absolutely gorgeous as well. But I don't know, there's just something about a bread bowl and moss filled with vintage ornaments. Oh, this is just one of my most favorite pieces that I've created. Now I'm adding a touch of faux snow. Again, I just really like that look. I just find it just helps to create that beautiful wintry feel. But of course, use whatever you love to use for your Christmas decor. This is such an easy project to do, and it's great. I think it turned out amazing. I love it on our table, and it is a great way to share any of your vintage ornaments or maybe some heirloom pieces that you have. I picked these birdhouses up from Dollar Tree. I have also seen them at Michael's and other craft stores, and I'm going to give one a coat of the Tuscan red and the other one a coat of the leaf green. As you can see, I'm just painting the body of the birdhouse. I'm going to be painting the base and the roof a different color. So this was a request by Tammy. I've done a couple of her requests before already, and I just thought that this would be something really fun to do. I actually absolutely love to use birdhouses at Christmas time, so I thought that this project would be so fitting. So as you can see, I've set the red one aside to dry, and now I'm doing the green, and I will allow them both to dry after one coat of paint each. I only did one coat because I wanted the wood grain to show through. All right, so now I am going to use burnt umber, and I'm going to be painting the roof with this color. You can paint your birdhouses, of course, any color that you like for your Christmas decor. So I want to say thank you to all of you who left me some suggestions for my viewer requests for this Christmas in July series. And if I didn't get to yours, I will try my best to get to those over the Christmas crafting season coming up. All right, so I had wanted to maybe use these as ornaments. So I'm using some eye hooks, and I found the center, of course, using my ruler. And I'm using a nail, and I'm just going to mark that off. And then I tried to push it in here. I don't know why, but I did. Anyways, I ended up digging out my hammer, and I hammered in just a little bit of a hole, enough to give me a guide so I could put my eye hook in. Now, of course, if you have a drill, then please use that. But I just wanted to just try this out to see if I could get it to work for any of you who do not have any tools. I'm actually curious, how many of you use power tools for your crafting? Let me know down below. So I got those eye hooks in place, and now it's time to decorate. I got these tiny little wood slices. My mom had actually gifted these to me, and I thought they would be perfect to put on the roof of these one of these bird houses. So I'm going to use some hot glue, and I just place them in a way so that they overhang on the edge as well as the bottom there. And I'm going to again treat them like shingles. So I'm going to just glue them all the way across the bottom to start, and then I'll start to layer them. I've also tried to make sure that I tested the pieces out to make sure that they're going to fit on the birdhouse properly, and then I glued them into place. Okay, so I've got the first row in place, and now I'm going to do the second row. I am going to just add just enough glue so that the bottom and the top touch the roof line and my bottom row, and I'm holding them there till the glue sets. So I'm going to just continue on to fill in both sides. Now, I left the peak on the one side till last, as you can see here, because I'm going to do them at the same time to make sure I have both sides even. So I'll glue one into place and I'll put the other one beside it, and then I just kind of push it into place until they're both even. You do have a few seconds until the glue sets up. So I'm going to do that all the way across the peak of the roof. Okay, for another option, I'm using birch bark. Again, I foraged this from the forest, so you can check out that foraging video. I am going to just cut it down. This stuff cuts down really, really easily. And I tried to get some pieces that are nice and flat, and that just makes it easier to work with for projects such as this. I'm just trying to piece this one side together, but I end up just finding just a straight up regular piece. And I'm adding some hot glue, and I'm just making sure I get it right up to the edge because I do not want the birch bark to lift. So generously apply the glue, add the birch bark, and then flip it over and press until the glue sets. So if you don't have birch bark, you could do some other alternatives such as fabric, scrapbook paper, and of course, feel free to cover it up any way you'd like, or you could just paint it out a different color. My birch bark is all in place, and some of the bark was lifting in a few areas, so I'm just adding a little bit more hot glue here and there, and I'm also trimming any of the edges as needed. Okay, so I'm going to start to decorate. Again, I am using these evergreen pipe cleaners, and I thought it would be really pretty just to add a touch of this Christmas greenery around the base of the birdhouses. So I'm just applying that using the hot glue. So I am going to add some pieces to the peak of the roof as well. I wanted to hide that seam, but I also needed to work around the eye hook, so I cut some pieces down to size and fitted around the eye hook. Okay, so now for the red birdhouse, I'm creating a little miniature wreath, and I'm going to glue that around the whole of the birdhouse. Now, another fun little touch is you could add a little bird if you have the right size. I didn't have the right size in my stash, so I'm just decorating it with some beautiful greenery and some other added touches. So for the red house, I decided that I'd add these red pip berries into the wreath just for a pretty added festive touch. For the green one, I decided to use pieces of branches as well as some lichen, and I really wanted to keep this pretty natural. So I didn't like the little edge that was under the roof line of the birch bark, so I'm just going to cover that up with a little twig on both sides, both front and back. Now I'm adding some of the lichen in amongst the greenery. So now I decided that I also wanted to add some branches on the front of the birdhouse. Of course, this is totally optional. Decorate your birdhouse however you like. I just thought it would look really cute as if it was actually kind of sitting in a tree in a way. It just kind of gives that illusion. So I just figure out where I want my little pieces to go, and then I glue them into place. So I think these are looking great. And now I'm going to use some baker's twine to create my hanger. But of course, again, you could omit the hanger and use these just in some vignettes or on a tiered tray. But I have a few birdhouses in my Christmas tree ornament collection already, so I thought this would be absolutely fitting. These are adorable. And again, as you can see, I forgot to pull some glue strings, so you're going to see a few of those again. But another trick you could do is use a hot blow dryer, and that will melt those little glue strings away really, really well. So this next Farmhouse Country Christmas DIY is a thrift store makeover. So I found this cute little planter rocking chair at my local thrift store. It was only $1.99 and I thought it was so cute. It just needed a little cleaning. So I took a rag, and now I am going to give the entire piece a coat of this Whisper chalk paint by Deco Art. I love Deco Art's products. I think they're wonderful. They're so easy to use and have great coverage. I have as many of the products as I can possible linked in my Amazon favorite store for you to check out. So you'll want to add, probably about 2 to 3 coats of the paint. Allow it to dry well in between each coat. The paint is all nice and dry, and now I'm going to distress all the edges and places where a rocking chair would typically have wear marks. You can see how well this is distressing, and the dark stain from the wood is coming through really, really well. So I'm just going to continue to work in a couple of different grits. I believe I picked up these sanding blocks at a store called Dollarama here in Canada, but of course you can find all kinds of sanding blocks at your hardware store as well. So I'm just going to continue to work here. I'm focusing again on some specific spots to create that really worn look. So here I'm using a coarser grit just to, again, remove a bit more of the paint and also to create some scratches. So I am done with my sanding block, and now I'm going to give this piece a coat of my matte varnish. And I find that when I apply this, it really helps the distress marks to really pop. So you're going to set that aside and allow that to dry well. And once it's dry, you can then fill in the whole portion. So I am going to be using this little canning jar. It fits perfectly. And what I've done is actually added just a few fresh stems of greenery and tucked in some baubles. I think it looks gorgeous for that country farmhouse look, but of course you could use this any time of the year and just refill the little jar with whatever you like for the season. I love it. Love this piece so much. And I know others have found these rocking chairs at the thrift stores as well. As always, I would love to know which project was your favorite or if you plan on recreating any of these. And I'm also curious to know which project is your favorite from the entire series. I have the playlist for you of the entire series linked down in the description box, posted at the end of this video, and it will be pinned in the comments as well. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here today, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.